Hello, we are back with another Arbury Road podcast, giving a little roundup of the news across the EU and across the world in the last week on Mondays as usual. Paco, how are you doing? How was your trip to Italy?
Hey, hello everyone. Yeah, I'm back to our Waco office in Valencia. No, it was really good. The situation is a bit better. Things are slowly going back to normality. Bars are open. Of course, there is still a lot of attention to be made, but hopefully, well, I'm optimist for the future. But we will discuss about this, I guess.
As always with everything, Paco, no?
Exactly.
All right. Well, it's good to have you back here in our adopted home in Valencia.
Yeah.
And let's get down to it. So, first story that we'd like to touch on today is about the digitalization of justice across the EU. We've had some developments in this story today and over the last couple of days. Paco, do you want to explain a bit about that?
Yeah, so basically the EU is working on future proposal, which actually have been already approved between November and December. So now they are implementing them on the digitalization of cross-border judicial cooperation. Basically, what they're doing, this like should help a lot to reduce the times of justice. So like the delays, and to have a better quality in judgments, and also to make access to justice way more less expensive. So hopefully should also result in a measure of social justice at the same time. Because basically what they're doing is they are implementing this system where the new technology will be used to do some of the main process of a trial online. For example, the witness, all the people involved in the process won't have to be physically present during the trial. Not only, but they will also create a decentralized system where digital system, which will unify the system of the various European states, and which will be used to share documents and collect evidence. And collect and share the evidence of a system. So the exchange of these documents will be way faster and also more secure because, both like they will go step to step with the, of course, law on privacy and with a system, centralized system, decentralized system with European regulation, which will guarantee the security of this. Now, you could think that this is at the moment like a sort of secondary thing because it's about process which are, which regard more than one nation. In fact, not only it's already more than 3.4 million of documents of trials yearly that have these modalities, so that regards more than one nation. But is not only about this kind of process, but it's also like it will sort of impose to the states to digitalize and modernize their system. For example, this in Italy will be really, really important. There are still the lawyers like with old style, I don't know, arriving with the act handwritten sometimes, it seems. So yeah, no, it's really important step in my opinion.
Yeah, it's big. In terms of the recovery fund, the recovery and resilience fund, I assume the EU are going to be using this to promote the digitalization of the justice system, no, for member states?
Yeah, exactly. It's one of the field where I think the recovery fund is going to be more important. So digitalization in general, also because like we have seen with COVID, how important it is and how important it is to change some of our habits. So yeah, definitely this is one of the way in which the recovery fund will be used. And again, when the EU does something wrong, we are the first to criticize it. For once, again, now we need to see if this is actually going to be done and the modalities and all the rest and the extent to which the recovery fund will be used. But if they maintain the promises, like this is going to be a really important step and a brave step, and I think really will change for better the life of European citizens.
Definitely, yeah. It'll be interesting to see as well. I mean, yeah, it's a great step, but it's a complicated one, you know. All of, I mean, court cases, all that information online and everything, they need their cybersecurity to be flawless, you know, amongst a host of other problems. So we'll congratulate them at the moment, but I'm sure we'll be criticizing them again soon.
Yeah, let's hope. But also, like, if you think about, you know, old people, for example, of course, it will bring a lot of problematics, like, you know, simply like people who are not that familiar with digital technologies, like it will be difficult for them. And so there are all a series of problematics. Even lawyers, you know, a lot of lawyers are not that young, especially, again, I'm thinking about Italy, but like, I'm sure this is not only for Italy as a problem. At the same time, I think it's a necessary step, it's a step we need to do. It needs to be gradual. We can't be like, you know, immediate, but like, for example, let's say we have another pandemic, we will have to be able to carry on with trials without, you know, interrupting everything as it happened like this time.
Yeah, no, you're dead right. You're dead right on that. Okay, let's move on then. Something I'd like to talk a bit about today and get your opinions on, Paco. At the moment, there's a discussion going on about vaccine passports, okay?
Yeah.
So the basic idea of the vaccine passport is that in a couple of months in the summer, when more people are vaccinated across Europe, they want to introduce a passport so that people who are vaccinated can travel, they can visit other countries, and by doing so, they're reinvigorating the economies of these countries. Now, Southern European countries like Spain, Italy, Greece, these nations who rely heavily on tourism, they back these proposals. And for that reason, it's a very good idea. You need to get these economies kickstarted again somehow. And if you're reliant 30, 40, 50% on tourism, you need tourists to survive. The problem is it raises a massive ethical question, as far as I can see, in that if you don't want to take a vaccine, you're now renouncing your right to travel, apparently, within these countries. Now, of course, it's far more complicated than that, but I just wanted to get your ideas on it. What do you think about the vaccine passport idea?
Well, of course, as you said, it's a really controversial topic in the sense that, of course, there are a lot of things which come into play: privacy, right to decide of your own health, right to free movement, even to a certain extent, economic reasons, like in the sense that, you know, illegal immigrants probably, I don't know how will the situation be for them.
That's a whole other level of complication.
Yeah, exactly. Again, people like, you know, African countries, of course, we spoke about this, like, it's everywhere. Like, we don't know when they will be able to actually get the vaccine. So it's like, there are so many things to play. That said, I think it's, you know, it was a really tough year. Well, the most tough year for sure for our generation, and probably after World War II. So, like, at the same time, it seems like a really good way to, again, a lot is on how you implement that, but it seems like a really good way of starting to go back to normality. Now, I really hope, again, I came back from Italy with more optimism than usual, more positivity. So I really hope that by summer, the situation is going to be way better. And so in a way, more relaxed in general. So traveling, hopefully, I hope it will be possible for most of the people. And I hope also that most of us are vaccinated by summer. Not most of us, perhaps is too much optimism, as you know, van der Leyen.
Yeah, we've only done 30 million vaccinations so far in Europe. There are 450 million people, you know.
Yeah, that's true. It's true also that governments are saying now the process should accelerate. And you know, I was reading about the UK. Apparently, the result of the vaccine are good there. Now, there is more of a question, another question, because they choose to vaccinate everyone without giving the second round.
Exactly, yeah. It's different. Like in Spain and in most European countries, they're trying to get as many second doses to as many people as opposed to rushing the first dose for everyone. We're going to have to wait and see which turns out to be better, you know?
Yeah, it's a risky move, for sure.
They're both kind of risky. I mean, the Brits, yeah, I mean, credit where credit is due. More people are vaccinated and things are going to open up there quicker. Again, is one dose going to be enough? What's going to happen in the meantime? When will everyone be vaccinated for a second time? But you do have to give a small bit of credit to the government there for getting things moving. A question for you about the passports, though, Paco, is that, well, it's worth mentioning, first of all, that von der Leyen said very recently that they are going to have a legislation on the passports this month. They don't know, is that going to disallow people from traveling if they're not vaccinated? But it's also worth noting that carrying a document for health reasons for traveling is not new. It's not uncommon, you know? I know a lot of people who have, if you have a replacement knee, there's metal in your knee and you carry a card that tells airport security it's going to beep, but it's in the knee, you know? So carrying a document isn't an issue. But why would you need to have the passport when you could just have a negative COVID test?
Yeah, exactly. And then again, there are a lot of other variables, like, for example, you know, like if you already had COVID, you're probably likely to be one of the last to get the vaccine because you are likely to be immune for a longer period, or young people. So like, yeah, it's a bit controversial. And again, everything that helps us to go back to a sort of normality. I don't think we will go back to normality this summer, but at least to a more relaxed situation again. I welcome that. It's really controversial. I think, why would you get a document? Also,
but also there's the point of, like, I think it's fair. Why should people be allowed go to another place and risk infecting all those people? That makes perfect sense. But we're moving into really dangerous territory here, with rights being restricted to allow different rights, and people's rights being restricted to allow economies to flourish again.
Yeah,
I'm worried that the EU are going to look at it from an economical point of view, you know?
Yeah, so like to think about opening rather than safety. Also because, you know, like even with all what we're talking about, the variants, you know, there is a lot of talking about the variants. It might be that one of these ends up being not, you know, the vaccine won't work for one of these. So like at that point you relax everything with the passport, and you end up having worse results. I don't know, it's complicated. I would say that it's still a good idea overall. Perhaps not making it too rigid, but like it's something that could help. Is not what we can rely on like completely.
Let's wait and see what the legislation looks like later this month before we decide. Just another quick note on the vaccine before we move on is that calls are increasing now for people to share their secrets. Okay, the big pharmaceutical companies do not want to share their secrets of how their intellectual property, let's say, about how they make the vaccines effective. Now, as we all could have predicted a few months ago, the US is getting vaccinated, Europe is getting vaccinated. They've bought the majority of the doses, the richer countries, and now other countries don't have enough. You've got Southeast Asia and Africa in particular. They can't develop the vaccine. They don't have the information. And it could be years before those populations are vaccinated. Where do you come down on this topic, Paco? I mean, I assume we should be.
Yeah, no, of course we are on the same position. But what I want to say is that it's not only an ethical reason, which is, you know, good enough, like just the idea that we can't leave certain countries unprotected while others are, but it's also a matter of security. Like it's also a matter of our health, like in the sense that, you know, sooner or later you will have to sort of go back to normality in terms of movement of people. And so like if you don't guarantee worldwide the security on COVID, you will still have danger for Western countries as well. The other thing that I want to say in this regard is, like, of course, the example of Cuba. Now, Cuba, of course, is a non-democratic and controversial regime, but at the same time, like, you know, they are saying they will guarantee vaccine for everyone going there, which is, by the way, something that also European countries could adopt in relation to the password we were discussing. But also it's saying that it will share the formula of the vaccine with everyone, and so like to basically contribute to health worldwide. I think, I mean, yeah, in a case like this is really a scandal that there are, you know, these private companies are allowed to keep secrets, and they should be forced definitely to share everything.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, we all could have anticipated the political games that were going to take place about this time of year when the vaccine was announced. And it's, I don't know, I have no faith in pharmaceutical companies. We've seen countries in Latin America now are scrambling to make a deal with the Russians to get the Sputnik 5 vaccine. This is going to give Putin a strong foothold in South America and Latin America in terms of soft power, soft political power.
Yeah.
The vaccine is going to be, sorry?
China as well, like you were talking about Africa. I was reading that in certain African country, actually China is giving their vaccine.
Well, so we've seen the developments between China and moving through Africa, all the trade deals and everything that have been set up over the last 2 years. That's hardly a surprise, you know?
No, definitely. But it will, as you were saying with Putin, the same is with Africa, with China, like they will have an immense return of image in those countries thanks to this.
All right, so I think that's enough about the vaccine. Just a quick one. We're going to move on. We've got some nice things to say about France for a change. The first one isn't the most important bit of news of the week, but I just noticed it there before we came on for a chat, is that the former president, Nicolas Sarkozy, has been found guilty of those corruption charges from all those years ago. And he's been given a 3-year jail sentence. Now, 2 years have been suspended. He probably won't spend even 1 day of the other year in jail, but it's the general consensus, the conversations about this topic have been saying that Sarkozy wanted to run for president again. He now won't be able to. So that's good news as far as I'm concerned.
It is a good news. Such a nice guy, Sarkozy.
Toxic. Anyway, the real good news about France. Tell us, Paco.
Yeah, so again, we had a bit of bad news about France lately. We talked when the country was fined recently by the EU. Now, finally
fined so much money, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, but symbolically about about the Paris Agreement. So they were not respecting the climate, the criteria set by the European Union. Now, good news by France. They announced that tampons will be distributed for free of charge to all schoolgirls starting from September. So this we spoke about Scotland, which was the first country in the world to have made this kind of sanitary pads and tampons free for everyone. This is a first step for a European country, really important, of course, in the sense that Scotland now is not in the EU. On that, being a member of the EU brings some complications, in the sense that you need the law to arrive to a European legislation, probably. But in any case, a really important step to fight what is called period poverty, which is the economic impossibility of ensuring adequate hygiene during the period. And this will, they are saying like 1/3 of students would be affected by period poverty without this legislation. So it's a really, really important step towards gender equality. And also, I would say it's important to discuss about, often menstruation, like the menstrual cycle, is a taboo topic. It's time to move on and talk about this thing openly, and also that the legislation adapt to consider these kind of problems.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it seems as if it's only a matter of time until we're going to see this in most Western, Central, maybe even Eastern European countries. Now, that remains to be seen, but it's certainly it's such an obvious injustice that, yeah, this is a step in the right direction, but it should be celebrated briefly. And really, these are things that should be happening in every country in the world today, no?
Yeah, exactly. And more in general, I would say this, but more in general is part of the idea that, health, and this is part of health, hygiene, and we see how much hygiene is important in this period now with the pandemic and all the rest, should be really a universal right, and should be all this kind of thing. Of course, there are women related problems, there are other problems for men, again, for other categories. So all these should be free, and like I think legislation should really start to adapt to the exigency of the single categories and guarantee a real universal healthcare for everyone. Absolutely. And this, other comments?
Well, it seems like it's probably time we have a podcast about gender equality, wouldn't you say, Paco?
Yeah, exactly. So this brings us to talk about our podcast of next Friday. We will have Alessandra Moretti, a really important member of the European Parliament. She's one of the most celebrated Italian politicians in the past 10, 20 years. 10. She's quite young. No, that it's really important, I think, in this moment, because the situation was already bad before the pandemic. The gender pay gap, which is the difference between how much a man and a woman is paid, was already 14.8%. Now the COVID-19 crisis made it even worse. The unemployment among women grew of almost 1% as compared of more than 1% as compared with men, where it's like 0.5, 0.6 only. And it passed from 6.9 to 7.9, so almost 8% among women. This is the European data. Of course, at the national level is even worse. What else? I would say this is a really important podcast because it's also about, we talk about Europe, but she's an Italian member of parliament, European member of parliament, but from Italy. And I think Italy is one of the countries where gender inequality is most acute in Europe. We have a lot of problems with that. We have a lot of unemployment. There is still the idea where, women stay at home, like, so it's really an important discussion on that. Is also going to be the first podcast in Italian, but of course, so a lot of gesturing. No, but we will have, of course, subtitles
available
in English, so everyone will be able to follow this.
And don't worry, I won't be speaking any Italian. It'll just be Paco this week.
Yeah, I hope to be at able to keep to the standard, the excellent standard you guaranteed.
I'm sure you'll be fine. All right, we'll leave it there. Paco, a pleasure as always. And yeah, everyone remember to tune in now on Friday for this special podcast in Italian. Should be fun. All right. Thanks again, Paco.
See you guys.
Take care. Bye-bye.